I'm Adam Long, and I'm a sculptor, and I've been trained in sculpting in just about every single medium: bronze, stone carving, wood. But what I found that I most resonate with are media that most artists haven't delved into before. So I tend to use a lot of natural items such as branches and bark and leaves and flower petals, and I take these natural objects and visualize them anatomically. I find human forms inside these natural forms that nature has created and put them together to create believable, or hopefully believable, human figures. Most of the time, my sculptures show, or I want them to show, a kinship between humanity and the world around us. And they'll be about mankind's need for the natural environment, how we rely upon it, our connection with that. It's where we came from, it's what we need to survive. And that's what I really want the creations that I sculpt to be about. But it can be so much more than that, and I often explore different avenues, but for me it almost always comes back to the human figure. It is so versatile, and you can say so much with just one figure. Infinite variety of poses. Turn a torso this way and you say something completely different than if you turn it the other way. Slight bend of the head. It's just fascinating to me what you can do with the human figure, and I can say so much with a human figure sculpture. I will often go out and gather my own materials. I'll go into the woods, and I have a few places where I like to go, and I'll go out and gather my own sticks and branches and fungus, and I'll bring a knife with me and pull off fungus off of decaying trees, and that might become hair or some other portion of the anatomy. But it's usually got to be something interesting for me to pick it up and keep it. When I'm outside, I'm not thinking about making art necessarily. Sometimes I am, but most of the time it is just being out there and enjoying where I am. And so whenever I'm out there, I'm just absorbing what's going on right then around me in the air, the smells, the temperature, the breeze, the moisture. And what I like to do is just instill that in my art, those feelings of that beauty, that wonder. If I'm out in the woods and I'm digging through a pile of leaves looking for a stick and a beetle scurries along, I love insects. That's just amazing to me, and I want to bring that sense of wonder, that sense of enjoyment into my work. There's a lot of prep work that goes into each of these sculptures well before I ever start actually sculpting them. And one of those things is the creation of the clay body that I use to sculpt with. So there is a lot of preparing the clay. Native Americans would go out and dig their own clay and come back and create a pot. Well, I'm not going out and digging it, but I am reclaiming it from the environment. I'm taking in paper, high quality, acid-free papers, and scrounging those from wherever I can, shredding pulping that paper, and getting that into a usable form. Lots of the colorants I use to stain the clays. I will go out in nature and create stains. For instance, one of the colorants I use a lot is a brown stain that I make from walnut husks. And that stain can go in with other colors, and I'll mix that in with paper and then mix that in with adhesives and create essentially a paper mache. It's a recipe all my own that I've been working on for years, and there's several different recipes, and they each have different qualities to meet the different needs of different parts of the sculpture. Once I have the clay ready and I have visualized with the branches and I'm seeing where those are going, the first step is to start assembling the branches into the human form. So I'll take steel wire insert that into the branches as much as I can. And I've got a lot of leeway and creative space available to really play with the pose of the figure. How much can I push that figure? And so I've got a lot of time to play with that figure and see where it's going to go. So I get those assembled figures attached to a base. I decide what kind of base it's going to have, or even if it needs a base, and what kind of base is going to support not only the physical structure of the sculpture, but also what's going to support the concept of the piece. Whatever that piece is going to be about, how is that base going to support that concept? And so I firmly attach the steel and branch structure to a base. And then I begin with a first layer of clay that is a strength layer. It doesn't really have any color mixed into it. It is simply just to get the wire locked in where I want it. And that first layer of clay strengthens that and sets the pose. Once that is dry, I go back in with successive layers of clay of various colors that are stained to mimic the natural colors within the branches. And I will begin fleshing out the anatomy of the figure. Get a hip, the rib cage, the musculature, spine. And usually one of the last things I do is, after that figure is set, the anatomy is correct, and the texture is set, I'll sculpt the facial features, generally about the last thing. I love, just like I love the human figure, the human face is infinitely expressive, and I can finish off that emotion, the expression, or whatever the concept of the piece is about, with the expression on the face. It's always what I strive for, is to finish off, cap off that piece with an expression that finishes the concept. Once that head structure is dry, if there's going to be hair on the piece, hair gets done after that. I'll use a variety of things for hair, whatever inspires me. It could be fungus, it could be Spanish moss, it could be regular moss, leaves, whatever I find that supports the concept of the piece. Then once those things are done, touching up color, blending in lichen colors, finishing off the base, making sure it's stable. And then once all of that is created and assembled, I have a finished sculpture. When people look at my sculptures, I hope that they get a sense of the wonder that I have for the natural world. I hope that they will see that little bit of interest in just a small thing, such as a stick that most of us just walk right by, and realize that there's something special in even the smallest bit of the natural world around us. The work I'm creating could take vastly different forms as the future goes on, but I think they're always still going to be grounded in that sense of wonder in the natural world.